Welcome to the video. In this video we're going to take a look at two of the latest cameras from RunCam. The first one is this one here. This is the RunCam Nano. Perfect for those little models where you need a really small camera and maybe you want to replace a damaged one or upgrade it with a name brand. We'll do a very quick unboxing of that. I'll show you that. The one I want to spend most of my time on in this video though is this guy here. Now this is the new RunCam Split 2. We looked at the original Split a while ago. I actually really liked the Split. It was a result of all of the problems that the original RunCam 3 had. If you remember the RunCam 3, that was that fantastic little box camera that I was a big fan of. I really liked that as well. Unfortunately, it appears that somebody else wanted to sue RunCam and they were forced to take the technology inside that box camera and put it in a different form factor, and that resulted in the Split. Now when we looked at that split camera, I did talk about the fact that I personally thought that it felt like it was a little bit rushed. Things like the Wi-Fi connection weren't particularly good, things like the way the SD card locked in I wasn't a big fan of, and it appears that a lot of those criticisms have been addressed in the new RunCam Split 2. So we'll get on to that in a second. Let me very just quickly show you this Nano. Again, I think this is probably for those applications. This is the Awesome 100. Again, you can watch the video review of it down here. I quite like this. This is actually one of the good ones, but it has a really dinky little camera. And some of the cameras in these kind of models are okay. Some of them are blooming horrible. This one's actually not bad, but if I ever did damage the camera, I would be interested to see what options I had for a replacement. And I think that's why RunCam has probably come out with something like this. Now this is a very small camera. There's only one manual piece at the top. I think calling it manual is probably doing it, making it sound a lot grander than it is. It's just showing you where you plug everything in. The voltage range on this is really small. It's only from 3.3 to about 5.5 volts. So you really want a 5 volt supply, and come on camera, that's the whole gig. So you have little lens at the front, really small form factor. The lens on it is a 2.1mm lens, and it has that little style connector at the back. So for those applications where you did have a camera problem, you know what, it would actually fit inside these kind of frames. So that's the first thing I wanted to show you very quickly. If you have a little machine that needs a replacement camera, you can now put a RunCam unit in there, which is good. The other thing I quite like this for is potentially adding it onto those kind of models where you have a video switcher and have this pointing downwards. Because it's quite small, you'd probably get it stuck away in the foam in the bottom of a plane if you were doing multiple views. The TBS vision systems I think allow up to 2 cameras, so you might want a normal RunCam looking out the front, and then you could maybe mount that looking in another direction and change it at the flick of a button. Okay, let's get on to the main event. Let's unbox this guy here. You can see I actually haven't opened this one. This is the very first time I've opened it. So when you take the top off, it looks very similar to the other one, but immediately you notice you have the separate Wi-Fi module, and we'll go through all of the improvements in a second. Let me just get it all out of the box first of all, with a little micro HDMI connector. You have the main board itself with the attached camera, again with that ribbon cable on there, and then underneath those bits we have the user manual, we have the thing about RunCam, and at the very bottom we have a very similar set of bits. We have this big bit of metal. Now I'll need to take that out because we need to talk about that. And then we have tons and tons of mounting hardware, and we have an extra long cable, which I'm really pleased to see, because if you're in a really small quadcopter this is great, but if you want to install this into something else where the camera's a little bit more remote, then it's good that you have the option to mount it. You have a load of other cables and standard kind of mounting brackets too. So let me clear all of this away and let me get the older split by the side, and we can do a quick comparison. So here we have the original RunCam Split 1 on the left hand side of the screen, and here's the new RunCam Split 2 on the right side. Now very quickly let's remind ourselves of what the version 1 was like. Very similar setup. I believe that the camera is identical, and the way the Wi-Fi module fitted in, I think, was like that. And I think at the time I talked about the fact that Wi-Fi module position is pretty terrible because you couldn't really get into it, and this would be pushing over and maybe encroaching on the stack that this was actually mounted on the top of. So let me just put that to the side and let's take a look at the new guy. So the RunCam Split 2, there's a number of improvements over the original version. The specs are the same. Let me very quickly put them up here on the screen. So it's a 1080p 60 frames per second recording. It's only about 21 grams. Low latency TV out, so you can fly with this as your FPV camera and at the same time do that 1080p 60 frames a second. Power off protection for video files. An anti-drop SD card, so they've changed the way the SD card attaches in the new version, which is very good because that's the other thing that really bugged me. And the other big deal is they've improved the wide voltage range as well. So let me just bring up a summary slide here and let's just talk about the things that are different. Now the first thing to talk about is that the power system on the new Split 2 is completely changed from the original version. The original version only ran on 5 volts. And that potentially caused some problems because it pulls quite a bit of amperage. So with the video transmitter you're using, even though it supplied the 5 volts you might want, it might not have enough current. So people were having to resort to using separate battery eliminator circuits just to run the Split. With the new camera setup, the wide voltage range means now that we connect it to pretty much anything. A 5 volt supply, a 12 volt supply, a 3S or a 4S battery can run this thing directly. And that is a major boon. That's a big improvement. It also means that now that there was a little problem with the first one where there was a USB reverse current issue. And that was where if it was powered from 5 volts and you plug the USB in, it could actually put current up the USB cable, which you don't want. The improved Wi-Fi connection method, we've already kind of looked at that slightly. Let me bring it into the camera so you can see it. It nicely has on the top all of the different labels to tell you which it is. So we have the USB port here. Hopefully you can see that on the camera. And we have the Wi-Fi connection. The Wi-Fi connection is now this separate little dongle rather than being that awful daughter board at right angle. So that means now you can actually plug that into the side if you want to use it with the app on a phone or a tablet to do all the configuration or all those different pieces too. And then when you've had enough, you can just unplug that, pop it in your bag and go and fly. The ribbon connector has been strengthened from the original version. If I put them side by side, hopefully you'll see the difference. The one on the right is the RunCam 2, the one on the left is the RunCam 1. That's going to make removal and connection of the cable an awful lot easier than it was before. Before it was a little bit tricky, to say the least. Now, at least with this much bigger, sturdier connection, it's the kind that you kind of flip open and flip up. Again, that's covered in the manual. Now the SD card slot is now the kind where you just plug the SD card into the side. And if you remember the first one, the way the SD card worked, it was this awful system where you put the SD card in and then you had to kind of close and lock the top, which meant you couldn't remove the SD card when it was installed in the craft. At least with this, if you get your fingernail to it, you can pop it out. That'll make copying things across an awful lot easier. This piece of metal here is designed as a heatsink and also as additional safety for the SD card. So if you install it like that, when you pop it on top of your model, the little tab here at the front actually locks the SD card in. So that acts as kind of a buffer heatsink. And also just provides that extra protection so your SD card isn't lost. Again, really nice little touch. The last thing that's been improved is the microphone's been upgraded as well. Personally, I don't use the microphone an awful lot. There was a little bit of distortion on it, but that's been addressed in the newer, later version 2. The camera, field of view, lens is the same, recording format and everything else is the same. So if you are looking for the Split, then personally, unless you can get hold of this for really good money, this is the version that you should probably be looking for now, the new Split 2. Does everything the original Split did, but it's actually addressed the problems that I highlighted when we did that original review. Thank you for taking the time to watch that video, and particularly for watching right to the very end. We try and release a video on Tuesday and Friday, and sometimes we'll release 1 or 2 extra ones in a week as well. All of the videos on the channel are organised into easy to use playlists, so do have a look in there, because if you're interested in a subject, we organise all the videos on that subject so you can find them easily all together in one place. If you like what we're doing, then please like and subscribe and tell others about the channel so they can come and join as well. We're available in all of the usual social media places, particularly in places like Instagram, Twitter, and we also share all of our 3D designs on Thingiverse.